There we go. Well, I apologize for all the coming and going. This is a welcome slide. This is welcome to beautiful Bonnybridge. Now, to be strictly honest, this is actually High Bonnybridge. Bonnybridge is divided in two by the Forth and Clyde Canal, and you can see it on the right-hand side of the picture here. High Bonnybridge was heavily industrialised, as you can see. We had about 15 iron foundries and engineering works and about the same number of brickworks in the area. And as you can see, even the photographer says, you know, eclipse overall, dirty. This gave rise to the local nickname Dirty Bonnybridge. That has all been swept away now, and we're now into a much more relaxed countryside. This is the Sunken Gardens in Bonnybridge, which used to be one of Bonnybridge's 5 railway stations, which have all now disappeared. So you can imagine industry and transport has crumbled in Bonnybridge. But it doesn't mean that Bonnybridge has gone into any sort of slump. Oops, let's go back a bit. We do have a number of modern industries in the area, but these are industries that need a lot of space, and they're occupying space that used to be occupied by the iron foundries. So we're still progressing fairly well. Our big claim to fame, however, is the fact that Bonnybridge straddles the Antonine Wall, and it's very much part of our heritage. The bottom photograph shows the wall and the vallum running through Seabeggs Wood, which is just on the edge of Bonnybridge. In the top left-hand corner, we have a small portion of the rough castle fort, showing the lilie, the lily-shaped holes in the ground, which were filled with sharp stakes. So if you were attacking and fell into one of them, then life would not be particularly attractive. So Rough Castle is a wee diamond in our crown, if you like. But, back again. Yeah, talking about serendipity. When Emma was talking, she actually put up the poster advertising the visit to Bonnybridge to talk about what they were planning to do and talk to us. And at the same time, the Greenhill Historical Society were making plans for a fairly major project in our book of work. And the fact that they were there talking to us and we were talking, we must have bored them silly talking about our planned project, because it was something which we really wanted to take away with us. And that was the initial idea. We were going to take a local wall and cover it with massive posters or plaques, panels illustrating Bonnybridge's history from the earliest history, from prehistory right through to the present day. And that includes unidentified flying objects. Bonnybridge seems to be the world capital for UFOs, much as some of us try to play that down. So that was a plan, to put these big panels up on this wall. And we also, as you can notice on the left-hand side, have plans to put up some sort of statue. Well, we were well advanced to this plan. We had got planning permission, we had got the funding, we had everything that we needed to access the site, and it was just a matter of getting ahead with it. But just before that happened, we received a visit from another officer of Falkirk Council, who was the man in charge of roads, walls, floods, and everything else. And basically he said, no, you can't do that. And we asked why, because we were all ready to go. And he said, well, I'm in charge of walls, and if I need to inspect that wall or repair that wall, I'll need to tear down the panels. So I said, what do you suggest? He said, well, why don't you try freestanding panels? Well, back to the drawing board, but we did that. Come on, move. There we go. And there you can see our freestanding panels all the way around the corner there. And in fact, they work very well. You can see an example of one of the panels, panel number 4, showing the Antonine Wall information. The Roman limes are well marked out on the map, and a wee 3D drawing of what the rough castle fort could look like, and various other bits and pieces of information. But the sharp-eyed among you will look to the far left and notice that there is, in fact, no statue where we had originally planned to put one up. To be honest, we came across a couple of difficulties. One, of course, was the cost, and the other one was a statue of whom or what. We couldn't make up our minds. So we decided that we wouldn't bother. And then we get a nice phone call or contact from Emma's group, Rediscovering the Antoline Wall, saying, basically, we'd like to talk to you about your statue. Well, Carpe Diem, as they say, grab the opportunity. And we entered into a discussion with the group, and we started talking about what sort of statue we'd be talking about. You know, a Roman soldier, perhaps. Mind you, Bonnybridge is Bonnybridge. This Roman soldier would be lucky if all he got was a traffic cone stuck in his head. His spear would be at right angles by the end of the week, so that wasn't going to happen. Somebody also suggested that since Bonnybridge was famous for making its iron stoves, we put one of them up there, but we didn't do that. Come on, move along. Right. So we sat down, myself and Emma and Danny from Falkirk Council, and discussed what we might do. And I came up with the idea of, instead of a statue, let's have a plaque, a flat plaque, a three-dimensional flat plaque, which would have information on it. It would have a 3D model of the Rough Castle Fort. It would have some information about ironworking in Bonnybridge and in Roman times, and it would be on a plinth made of Roman-style bricks. Now, we talked for some time about this, and the idea was received quite well, and the process of finding an artist and setting up was undertaken with Emma's group. And we were invited along to interview some artists who'd offered to take on the job. And one of them was Alan Potter of East Kilbride, which was entertaining because at the time we were on the phone to Alan, who was house sitting a farm in France, and all we got were this conversation interrupted by the loud cackling of French hens. It made for an amusing afternoon, but eventually we decided on Alan because he came up with this initial drawing, and I was stunned because that was almost exactly the way I had imagined the panel to look like, except in the bottom left-hand corner, the wee cannon. Cannons weren't made in Bonnybridge, they were made in Falkirk, the carronade, the Carron Ironworks there. But that was what I was looking for, the link between Roman metalworking and Bonnybridge metalworking, Roman brickmaking and Bonnybridge brickmaking, and of course in the centre, the fort itself. When we investigated Alan's work, we discovered that he also made kind of three-dimensional flat-top pyramids. So we asked him to construct something in that image, and he also came up with the drawing for the plinth that this was going to sit on. Now, initially, I had asked for some attempt at making this piece of artwork available to those with sight difficulty. We thought of putting Braille information on the plaques, on the information panels that go around the plaque. But to be honest, only about 19% of the blind use Braille, and most of the others use modern technology. And we examined various ways of doing that. To be honest, we weren't very successful. The best we could manage is to make a wee video, which is an audio description of what's happening in each of the panels. And you can see there what we have. On the top is a model of Rough Castle Fort, and it's all very tactile. Top left-hand corner, we have Vulcan, the Roman god of fire and metalworking. I didn't know that Roman metalworkers had their own god. Good luck to them. And then the top right-hand corner, a reference to the iron foundry industry in Bonnybridge, highlighting the Smith and Wellstood film. And their trademark was essay. They made stoves, basically, made and sent all over the world, and still used today in many places. Bottom left-hand corner, we have Terra Mater, the earth goddess. From, of course, we get the clay from the earth, which goes to make the bricks. And the bottom right-hand corner is actually a scene from a photograph in one of Bonnybridge's brickworks. So altogether, it went quite well. We never did get our statue, but we did get a very nice plinth with a very nice piece of artwork on top of it. And it's placed next to the local community centre, so there's plenty of opportunity for people passing by. And I reckon if you're standing nearby and somebody is looking at it and saying, "Oh, I didn't know that," then I think you've hit your mark. And I think that's what you were aiming for, that local people get the chance to realise that their history and their heritage intermingles from Roman days to, well, very nearly the middle of the 20th century with the industry. It was a lovely piece of work. It was great fun working with Emma and her team, and it was great fun working with Alan Porter, the artist. And thank goodness I managed to get this done eventually. Sorry about the technology, but there it goes. I think that's me finished. Yes, thanks for listening. Okay, I'll pass you back over to Manuel.